This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here today, joined all the way from Los Angeles by Jill Bucaro. How are you today, Jill?
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Now, I was intrigued as to what you're doing these days. You have a program called Candy to Carrots associated with your business, Wellness Riot. Would you tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to Wellness Riot and Candy to Carrots?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm an integrative health practitioner. It's my second life, my
Okay.
second career. I actually do have a degree in kinesiology, and then I took a break, kind of a step away from the health and wellness field, went back into it because of some personal health issues and a journey, and went back to school. So I got a certificate as a naturopathic doctor. My board certification is as a doctor of natural medicine. And then I also did nutrition and health coaching program as well. And Wellness Riot is my business. And Riot is twofold. One, that I think feeling good and healthy should be fun.
Mhm.
And there's not enough levity in the health and wellness industry as far as I'm concerned. And also riot, meaning like we really need to change how we look at food and how we're feeding ourselves and where our food is coming from. So that's Wellness Riot. And I tend to see clients that are moms, busy executives, busy parents that are low in energy, sleep disturbances, digestive upset, things like that.
Yes.
And what I realized is that as I'm seeing these moms, dads, parents, if the kids aren't on board or if the family isn't on board, it's really an uphill battle for the individual that's trying to make health changes, that's trying to eat more whole, unprocessed foods, that's trying to go in the right direction. So I have a son who's now 11, who is very picky eater from the ages of like 2 to 5, like
Interesting.
where I would look at my husband across the table and ask if we really needed to eat every day, because it was just one of those
Wow.
things to dread. And my husband and I both came from restaurants, both we're foodies. And so to not being able to enjoy our dinner or breakfast, lunch was like devastating, because it was such a, moment of joy for us. So that's where Candy to Carrots came out of, is that I
Mhm.
really started to study what was going on with the choices that he was making or not making, how we were talking about food, what we were presenting, what was the actual issue, and all of the surrounding information that I could find. And so that's how Candy to Carrots came to be. So it's transitioning kids to healthier eating, not healthy necessarily. We're not going to be on sprouts and salads and kale
Yeah,
necessarily, but
yeah.
how to transition them to healthier eating in a way that doesn't turn your life upside down. And that's doable for you in your everyday life, for most parents.
I see. Now, when you say your son was a picky eater, what do you mean exactly by that?
So he actually had a pretty good palate.
Hmm.
Um, in some ways, like he would eat sushi and he would eat blue cheese and he would eat. So there were some things where like you would think kids don't eat that, but he wouldn't eat a lot of it. And then it was very texture based. Like
I
some
see.
stuff was he was very texture specific. So those were some of the big things that we noticed. And, being someone in the health and wellness field, like I wasn't just ready to throw in the towel and be like, okay, fine, have the cereal, have the, donuts, have the, like, I just wasn't going to do that.
Right.
So that's why it was a battle for so long. Cause I was like, I just knew the importance of getting healthy food into, any human, but mostly my child.
So I'm guessing that through these experiences with your own son, you created this Candy to Carrots program.
Mhm, exactly. It's
Uh,
what worked, and also what's not in there is what didn't work, because there's plenty of that too.
and it's a series of online videos, right?
Correct. It's about an hour of content broken
Mhm.
up into like 5 to 10 minute increments on different steps and different areas of health. Like I go through the why. Like, why would you as a parent even want to embark on this journey of trying to get your kids
Yeah.
to eat healthy food if they're not already doing that, right? Because it sounds dreadful, and I've been there, so I understand, but we go through the why it's important, the health challenges that our kids are facing, and then the challenges that parents are facing. Like, what are we up against when we're trying to make that transition to healthy
Yes.
food? You're right. We're against commercials and billboards and, what they serve at schools and camps and community events and, friends' houses and birthday parties. I mean, it's, really an uphill battle.
Well, as we discussed earlier, I went through a whole process myself with both my wife and I, with our son, who is now 7, and I did a series of pieces called "Raising a Healthy Appetite." And
Mhm.
I was intrigued to watch other. You can't really help but compare and contrast your own child with other children that you have experience with, and I was looking at some of the things that actually my niece was eating and the things that she wasn't eating. And she was a little bit older than her son. And I can remember in my head thinking, I don't want to go down that kind of channel where there's, maybe 2 things that she's really fond of, and that's what she tends to
Mhm.
eat all of the time. I'm not putting down my sister's parenting in any way whatsoever here, but it was just one of those things that I didn't want to go down. So we made a point of I do 99% of the cooking in our home, and I made a point of introducing him to as wide a variety of foodstuffs as possible, but very early on in his life. And I found that to be an interesting approach in many ways, if only for the kind of testing for allergens and the like.
Yeah, very interesting. I think you're totally right. It's not as much about the food as it is like, how are they introduced? When are they introduced? And what
Yeah,
are we saying about the food, right? Like, we have, as parents or adults, like these ideas about what kids do and don't like. They
yeah,
only like macaroni and cheese. They only like peanut butter and jelly. They only like cereal. And it's just not the case for most kids. And so introducing them to those variety of foods, we as parents, I think, have to give them the chance to say yes or no, right? Like, we have to offer a variety of foods. And I think most of us as parents would be really surprised at what they say yes to.
yes, definitely. Well, I mean, one of the things that sticks out in my mind in particular is it was around Christmas time, and we were in near a Christmas market, and there was a seafood restaurant. So we were there, and I waited for his mum to go to the washroom, and then he was introduced to his first oyster, and he loved it. Oh boy, he really liked it,
Wow.
and that was the start of a genuine love for oysters. But another thing that I think it, at least in my experience, was incredibly important is you said that you and your partner shared a passion for food. And the thing is, there are lots of people who don't have a passion for food, and they simply eat it because they have to. And I
Mhm.
think it's interesting if you can manage to um, have your child witness you being excited by food and the whole process of sitting down for dinner with the family, and they really absorb that. And now our son has this genuine passion for food. He gets very excited about food these days.
Yeah. They mirror us, our
Yes,
kids,
yep, yep.
whether we like it or not, whether they know it or not, for better or for worse. And so I think food is just one of the areas where how we speak about food, how we interact with food, what our perception and attitude is towards food is, they're watching that. So if
Yes,
we're like, ew, spinach, gross, vegetables, or like, oh, it's a treat, we're going to, fast food, or, oh, this
yeah,
is a
yep,
prize, right? Like, oh, you did good on your report card, and here's 10, things of candy. It's, we're teaching them how to think about food. And we all do. I did it, right?
yes,
Like, you got to eat the broccoli and then you can have the cookie, right? We're setting it up in a way that we're not even thinking, right? Because that's maybe how we were raised. Like, you
yes,
have
yeah,
this and you get this. And it's like just that little tweak of speaking about vegetables in a positive way, right? Is like, it could be a game changer. And we have to be good role models. So if that means we get in the kitchen where maybe we're not comfortable, but we use it as like an experiment, right? Or
yeah,
like a test or an adventure with our kids, then great, we both learn. Because you're right, not everybody loves being in the kitchen like I do, and that's okay. But it's just, we have to be careful about, how we speak about food and what the reason we're eating is. I mean, yeah, we want things to taste good, but it's fueling our body. It's allowing our kids to play and pay attention and interact and have the energy to do the projects and the art, art and all that they want to do, and play with friends and be social like that. There's a base of that in what we eat. So, there's making those connections, I think, are helpful. And it's never going to be overnight for kids, right? I mean, it's not overnight for adults
Yes.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but over time and with that continued verbiage and with that continued practice, they will start to mirror us.
I'm a bit worried about how often I'm drinking wine because he may start mirroring that reasonably soon. Anyway,